Alright, let's go back in time to 2011 and baby me just bagged himself a Wii. I loved Mario and played Wii Sports religiously, but as time went by, I got bored. So I asked my parents for a new game, and ask and you shall receive. You see, I loved Scooby-Doo growing up, so when my dad found a copy of Scooby-Doo First Frights selling for less than a loaf of bread, well, let's just say we were eating well. And that night, I put Do Frights first into my Wii, and lo and behold, I was hooked. My 5-year-old brain couldn't look past the inherently buggy and broken mess which was this game. But for some reason 13 years later, I still remember this game and it drove me to purchase a copy off eBay, grab a Hyperkin Elgato and pull out the AA batteries. So I sat down and relived this experience. And my god, it was Scooby-Dooby-Doo! When you think of adaptations, your brain instantly goes to games like Simpsons Hit and Run, Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga, Shrek the Third on the PS2, but Taurus Games, an Australian development studio, has been given the task to make a Scooby-Doo action-adventure game, one which hasn't really been done before. With the video game boom in the 2000s, every company was making adaptations on their most prized franchises. So when Warner Bros came knocking at Taurus Games' door, the development team were prepared and poured all their passion and talent into this game. Just to say, this game had a reported 5 months of development, which is insane. The fact that Taurus Games even were able to produce a product, let alone a classic, in 5 months truly is remarkable. So in late 2009, this game would release and it was awesome. The game was made for kids, so it's no surprise that kids absolutely loved this game. The silly slapstick and although goofy stinger effects help keep the lovable and larger than life Scooby-Doo feel. It was a fever dream for all Scooby-Doo fans and was a game which many to this day still remember and look back upon fondly. The charm present in First Frights is truly amazing. The game really nailed the tone and vibe of Scooby-Doo. The characters you find during the levels, the designs of the monsters, and even the gang themselves. Even coming back to this game all these years later, that original charm still holds up. Even the worlds, which are filled with unique designs and filled with creativity. One of my favorite worlds being the amusement park. As a kid, I always loved the feel and look of Dagwood dogs, reminding me of amusement parks near me like Luna Park. The toys were goofy but also had this unsettling feel, like the clown dudes look completely insane but silly at the same time. This game kinda gives me the same feel as The Complete Saga, but my mind still keeps this game cemented, which is why I made this video in the first place. That imaginative essence the game produces through its different worlds and the characters filled in them doesn't feel like much, but as a whole it really makes something special. It's like this game is a time capsule, and even 10 years from now, it will still have the same feel which it had in 2009. My main point is, my god, this game is charming, with its silly presentation style that makes you feel like a kid again. Also, this game has a sitcom laughing sound effect, which at first I found it annoying.
Non-edible type clues.
But strangely, I kinda got used to it, and I even had a little fun trying to guess when they will use this effect. Like this lunatic will be dancing and I'll be like, laugh, laugh. And it's honestly great fun, and only true Frights first gamers keep this setting on. The enemies in this game oddly are some of my favorites in any video game. Yeah, so what? The AI is completely and utterly broken. What matters is the designs of the enemies, and my god, they are awesome. Fish Dude, Wizard Man, mass murdering teddy bears. It's truly remarkable how Taurus Games managed to create such unique designs for their villains. And the bosses. We'll get to that later because I have a lot to talk about regarding these guys. Also, ever wanted to play with obese Velma? Well, now you can. It's something to say that these costumes are so awesome. There are so many wacky and completely absurd fits like Astronaut Shaggy, Viking Daphne, Sumo Velma, and this abomination. To name my favorites, it would be Sumo Velma, Rockstar Daphne, this Shaggy costume, and well, this. It's great when a game can just be whatever it wants to be without constraints always limiting the project. For First Frights, it was clear that Warner Bros. Really allowed Taurus Games to do whatever they wanted, and it really shows with the insane but kinda charmful costumes this game has. I think the costumes are definitely my bread and butter with this game, because in my childhood I would find this game to be the wackiest one of them all. But that is exactly why I loved it, and coming back 13 years later, that same charm still sticks. And I realized Velma isn't obese, but is wearing a sumo costume. Yeah, as a kid I thought this was Velma just gaining a few extra kilos. That's enough of that, let's talk about the meat and potatoes here. The gameplay.
Step away from the sandwich.
This game is broken. I'll say it, it is completely broken. Now that doesn't mean I hate the gameplay that much. I played this game to keep the authenticity's sake on a Wii. So if you know what a Wii remote feels like on a 3D game, you can kinda understand the pain I went through. But I wanted to keep that same feeling I experienced all those years ago, so I got through it. Some things have actually aged quite well, and some not so much. The gameplay is eerily similar to the complete saga, in that it operates the same way. Kill bad guys, complete simple tasks, and eat Scooby snacks. Grabbing Scooby snacks is definitely one of my favorite things about this game. It feels so satisfying when you ground pound and a million Scooby snacks come pouring out. Also, First Frights has a system where if you grab a medallion, you gain 500 Scooby snacks, acting as the mini kits from the complete saga. Finding these are actually kinda easy, as you can literally hear them with an audio cue, but some of these are actually placed in really tricky spots, which makes you then start to attempt stupid stuff. You can imagine stuff like jumping through a volcano whilst the literal surface below you is moving, stuff like that, you know. The Scooby snacks act as this game's main currency, and grabbing more of them allows you to buy costumes. So there actually is a reason to grab them, which makes the process of breaking everything in front of you a lot more enjoyable. I must say, it would have been really cool if the Scooby snacks could also buy modifications to your game, like the complete saga and its red bricks. But although that isn't the case, the Scooby snacks are really fun to collect. Combat-wise, First Frights is also very similar to the complete saga. You have an attack on each character, with Shaggy and Velma being ranged characters, as Fred, Daphne, and Scooby are all melee characters. With the game being quite simple, with it having your standard attack mixed with a special ability, which pressing it, your character performs their move. Shaggy produces an orb which stuns enemies, allowing you to kill them quicker. Scooby-Doo as well has the same stun ability, which is the same as Shaggy's. Daphne floats in the air and performs a long-ranged kick, wiping out all enemies in her way. Velma smashes a bunch of books, causing a lot of damage to enemies, and Fred has a ranged American football which explodes, damaging enemies nearby. The concepts of the special abilities are charming and really adds to the game's goofy feel. However, the abilities rarely get used as the game is a hack and slash, which means most times to take out enemies it's best to just spam the light attack, which can wipe pretty much every enemy in the game, beside from flying enemies which require you to jump then attack. Furthermore, you have a charge up ability. By holding your attack button down, your character starts to produce an aura, leading to your damage multiplying. It's pretty cool, but I didn't use this that much, and I kinda found it by accident when I was just experimenting with the controls. Overall, the enemies are pretty cool in their designs, however the combat is where I feel it definitely falls flat. Like, most enemies will hit, and that's about it. For me, the second episode housed the most interesting lineup of enemies, with the clowns, toy soldiers, dolls, and the chapter even has a homing missile toy. These enemies I feel best balance the game's existing controls, which I found very enjoyable, and it's another reason why the second episode is my favorite. But there is one more reason which we will go into later. Like, enemies like the deep sea diver I found just kinda annoying, as the mechanic which is meant to play out is the diver will throw a projectile, explosive, which you block. Also, avoiding its attacks, which is simply a punch and a ground pound, is really annoying. Like, don't get me wrong, they look awesome, but have you ever tried taking one of these things out? It takes way too long. Like sometimes you will be hitting them for a minute straight just for them to die randomly. Also, the werewolves I find are similar to the deep sea divers with their mechanics, but at least they are a little weaker and can be easily avoided by spamming the ground pound. Another issue I ran into is the flying enemies. The game wants you to hit the enemy in the air. I know this game wasn't designed for the Wii, but playing this version, it was really hard to hit the enemy. But I'll give this one a pass as it wasn't the main version this game is designed for. The main version being the PS2, but this one is just a port of that version. Eventually, the combat starts to feel a little repetitive, as most enemies require the same moveset to be defeated. Plus, spamming attacks is the way most enemies can be dealt with. These are by far the strangest levels I have ever played in any video game. Some of the stuff you find in these levels are just amazing. Like this clown who is jumping up and down in the circus. Or this awesome toy conveyor belt with smashing metal clamps. You get this euphoric 2000s feel whilst playing this game that oozes creativity and has that edgy yet goofy level design. The library in the first episode is one of my favorite locations with its insane attention to detail, with the room being completely filled to the brim with books. Even stuff like the rotating cage in episode 2 or the epic lava ride in episode 4. It's stuff like this which makes the game a lot more memorable, with stuff like Viking Daphne and Barbarian Fred marching the episode 4 castle, or Shaggy and Scoob sneaking into the toy factory. The game just has this really unique level design, which I absolutely love. Next is the actual mystery gang and their specific mechanics. Scooby-Doo can crawl through small doors, which can be used to reach different areas. Shaggy can use his yo-yo grappling hook, Daphne can climb metal poles, Fred can push heavy objects and pull heavy contraptions, and lastly Velma, who can hack computer systems. Each character's unique mechanics fit with their personalities in the show and movies, which is a great way to adapt the films into games. Also, the game has many, well, let's call them secret rooms. They are not really secret, but let's just roll with it. These rooms house a chest, and when opened, the player is rewarded a new costume, which I guess elevates the need for exploration. However, the chests feel very unmissable, so I guess it kinda works. Also, during levels at certain points of the stage, you will need to find mystery clues, which are scattered throughout the level. These can range from the 4 bases of a baseball field into things like bushes, and even they can be found inside enemies. After collecting all mystery clues, you will be rewarded with a clue. It is meant to help you piece the story together, but it really only highlights the characters which you meet through the chapters. Like, oh my, a coach's whistle. I wonder who that belongs to. Still, the clues are very unique and gives it that Scooby-Doo feel. So let's move on to the next piece on the agenda, the big boys. Oh, I've been waiting to talk about these guys. It's kinda the reason why I fell in love with this game. Now you think I'm gonna start with the first boss, right? Well, to that I say, no. Here is Big Giant Awesome Robot. I absolutely love this design. It is unironically scary but completely wacky at the same time. Like, playing this as a kid, I actually had nightmares about this thing. The way it destroys and leaves carnage to anyone and anything it touches adds to that element of fear. Now I look at it and go, yeah, I was a silly poopy boy. But come on, tell me this thing wouldn't scare the living days out of a kid. Something I left out of the gameplay part of this video, just to save it for now, is the chases. Yes, a chase level. You spawn in with Shaggy and Scooby and oh no, it's Big Scary Robot. The robot chase is terrifyingly goofy. Like, firstly, it's in a sewer. Water robot, it doesn't really match. But come on, let's leave common logic out of the way. This is the same game that has this, so. The chase itself is pretty standard. Run forward, jump over the obstacles, and don't stray too far behind. But it does the job pretty well, in that it scares the shit out of you. Like, as a kid, my diapers were filled to the brim after hearing that robotic activation noise, and then seeing this emerge out of thin air. Even the Kraken chase was awesome. Seeing the abomination destroy the walls of the ship to this day is traumatizing. I will admit though, I'm a little disappointed with chapter 4, as it cheaps out the main boss not even being in the chase. It's just a Super Saiyan werewolf, who is the same as a normal one, just being a little bit bigger and having purple eyes. Then we have the Dracula chase, which it's alright, just I can't take this dude seriously. But hey, let's move into the boss fights. The Dracula boss is terrible. The boss feels really out of place as the dude is literally singing during the fight.
Now, Skulls, class your cue. Show these kids what you can do.
Secondly, the boss's hit detection is rubbish. Like, you will be hitting this dude for a few hits just for him to swipe you 20 feet across the stage. This isn't even difficult, it's just pain having to repeat this throughout the whole fight. For the good fight, we have the robot in the storage room of the toy factory. During this boss fight, you will be doing the following: running away from its punches, running from its massive awesome laser gun, and breaking the thing's face. I find this fight to be perfectly silly, but also difficult, and this is definitely my favorite one of the lot. When I was young, I was versing this robot at my uncle's house, and after beating it, my dad kinda said to my uncle, "My son, he can beat a 50-foot robot in a game. Trying to flex it or something? Wait till he finds out about this one." In all seriousness, this fight is a classic and remains my favorite in the game. Next, we verse the Kraken in the depth of the ghost ship. Here you fall out of a cage into a room with boxes as your only platform. Beside this, you need to dodge the Kraken's punches whilst shooting its stomach. We next have to shoot these two furnaces, and after that the thing literally burns. Thankfully, the people inside the Kraken aren't burned to a crisp. But yeah, let's move into the last fight. This last one is definitely the coolest one in terms of setting. We fight this ghost wizard lady in an epic battle. The fight starts with the ghost lady becoming enormous, but for some reason it decides, nah, I'm taking these two on in a fist fight. So it shrinks down and now we have to battle it one-on-one. It honestly is pretty easy to defeat. Just spam attacks when it teleports and that's pretty much it. I really like the approach Taurus Games took with designing the bosses. They feel as if they could fit in the world of Scooby-Doo, but at the same time they look video gamey, which I think Taurus Games struck gold in the boss department. After defeating the bosses, we now have to choose who was the culprit. During the chapters, the mystery gang meet a lot of strange and, dare I say it, insane people, all of which are designed to raise suspicion on who the culprit could have been. In the first world, we have this weird sport coach, Anna, Daphne's cousin, and Miss Hilkin, the crazy drama teacher. Next we have Pete Smithers, Numbers, and Tim Toiler. For chapter 3, Bluebeard, Willie, and Seth Angler. Lastly, for chapter 4, we have Costington, who has a nose which would make Gru jealous, Lady Azani, and Cal Perkins. With that out of the way, who do you think were the ones behind the mystery? And yes, obviously this is a massive spoiler warning. Here's a tip, if they look suspicious, then maybe it was them. Okay, I'm not saying any more, let's go. Chapter 1, it was, drumroll please, the coach. Yeah, this one was pretty obvious. Okay, next we have Tim Toiler. For chapter 3, we have Willie and Seth Angler with our first duo in the game. And lastly, we have Lady Azani. A really cool detail I love is the faces and movements they make when you select them as being the culprit. Like the coach just goes, "Nah man, it wasn't me." Some of these animations are just completely gold. I must admit this was a nice feature for the game that fits the Scooby-Doo vibe perfectly, but look, I'm not a detective and am nowhere near qualified to be one, but during my playthrough I guessed every single one. Told you! Genius. So what I'm trying to get at is it's pretty obvious who the hell is guilty, but who cares, it's cool. I nearly forgot the most important thing about First Frights, the frickin' soundtrack. It is crazy to think a game about Scooby-Doo can possess such an amazing soundtrack. This game's opening intro houses a soundtrack which every time it's played brings me straight back to 2010. It feels Scooby-Doo in every way possible, but has this feeling like, oh shit, we're getting into this one. And don't get me started with the code sounds. It's enough to make a grown man cry, but not this man, get back in there too. Like every sound this game has, you can almost remember hearing it before, and it's awesome. But the most cool detail that I think the majority of You First Fright gamers may have missed is that during the levels, the soundtrack actually has different moods. It starts off calm in the first level, but eventually the soundtrack elevates and becomes a lot more epic. Like when you see Bad Guy, the music goes full epic mode. Hearing this immediately makes you hyped up. I think my favorite thing about this soundtrack is its ability to be completely unhinged, but still you understand what is about to happen.
My face! No!
Another awesome thing about this soundtrack is the way it changes throughout the episodes. Episode 1 is a calm but awesome theatric feel. Episode 2 is more about mystery and being ominous. Episode 3 is moody but otherworldly, kinda giving some Plants vs Zombies vibes. And episode 4 is just pure blitz and epicness. Massive props to Finn Robertson and the people behind this game's music. It is actually insane how hard some of these tracks go and how memorable these tracks would become. The way the episodes have different musical pieces is one of the things that you look back upon and go, damn, this game actually had soul. Which is a far cry to what we have nowadays, but anywho, look, I've always been into video games. As a young kid, few things really caught my eye. Thomas the Tank Engine, DS, and This Italian Man. Many of us probably can relate when I say video games to a degree made us the way we are. What do I mean by this? Do you remember the first time you booted up Minecraft or played Mario Kart? Likelihood is you don't. And for the very few that do, my god, I wish I had your memory. But it's those experiences which we remember that always come back to us. A moment in time where we didn't need to worry about life. For this moment, we could play and not worry about when rent is due. Before watching this video, you may have never even known this game existed. Yet the impact it had on my life and potentially many of yours is massive. For whatever game makes you feel this way, I will say this. After watching this video, go to the closet, pull out that game, and if you still have the console, boot it up. For a long time, I forgot about this game, but weirdly it came back to me all of a sudden, and it feels like time hasn't passed at all. Scooby First Frights may just be a rubbish adventure game, which doesn't really have any outstanding qualities, but to me it is one of the most important games I have ever played. It brought me into a world which to this day I will never forget. Taurus Games, the development studio who made this game, sadly are no longer making games. Last month, the studio ceased all productions of video games and will be on a hiatus for the foreseeable future. Taurus Games, I just want to thank you for all the hard work and dedication you put into your games. You have changed many lives through your innovative and creative work. You have impacted my life in a way which I will never forget, and I just have to say thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, that was Scooby First Frights, a game which I treasure religiously. I know that there was a sequel for this game, Scooby-Doo and the Spooky Swamp, which I may cover in the future. But for now, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take it easy and goodbye.
Scooby-Dooby. Fool.